Welcome to my channel, guys. My name is James. Today we're going to be making a very common dessert that you will find here in Catalonia, and it's called Crema Catalana. It's something that specifically originates from Catalonia when you ask the Catalans, and it does look a little bit like creme brulee, and there's a big discussion about it, but there are a few variances in how you make each one. Creme brulee typically comes in, say, a ramekin such as this, and you set it by putting the custard in a water bath in the oven, and then you cook it. Whereas Crema Catalana, you normally make on the stovetop, which I'll show you in a second. But in essence, to avoid argument's sake, when you go to a restaurant here in Catalonia and you see Crema Catalana on the menu, don't call it a creme brulee. You can easily offend somebody, and I'll leave it at that. Also, I'd like to thank Jim over at My Spanish Kitchen for doing this collaboration with me. I actually found him on YouTube not that long ago, and he lives not that far from me, so it's nice seeing another Englishman here in Spain. But if you are interested in Spanish food, Spanish cuisine, then his channel is something that you will absolutely love. He has an excellent variety of recipes on his channel, Spanish recipes mostly, since we live in Spain, and you can definitely tell his passion for cooking when he makes his videos. They're easy to follow and extremely tasty as well. So guys, be sure to like the video down below, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and be sure to check out Jim's YouTube channel at My Spanish Kitchen after watching this video, and tell him I said hi. So let's get started with this recipe. So for this recipe, it's a very easy recipe. It should take no more than about a half hour to actually make, and then it'll take a little longer to let the crema catalana set when we're going to cook this, and we have to put it in the fridge later. So first I'm going to start with weighing out all the sugar, and I'm also going to weigh and measure out the milk. We're going to be using about half a liter, 500 milliliters. Now this is good for about 3 to 4 people, this recipe, more or less. Once you have this done, we're going to start with the citrus. Now, instead of zesting them and using a microplane, we're just going to use the skin. But this is the important bit, is instead of just using the skin, it's important that we take out the white part of the membrane of the skin. This is extremely bitter, and it doesn't have a nice flavor to it when we add this. And trust me, when you put in enough of this, it will affect the flavor of the custard that we're going to be making. So as you see in the video that I'm using my knife to slowly cut the white membrane off. You can try this at home if you want. You can also use a potato peeler as well. This is another method. But once this is done, we're going to put the fire on. I'm going to bring the milk up to a boil, and I'm also going to throw in all the lemon segments as well as the cinnamon. Now while this is coming up to temp on medium heat, medium to low heat, I'm going to then crack and open the eggs. You can save the egg whites if you want to make an omelette or to make something else out of it, but we just need 7 or more egg yolks, large egg yolks. I'm going to add the sugar that we weighed out, and I'm also going to add a little bit of cornstarch. You're going to whisk this by hand if you want, and if you're doing it by hand, you have to whisk it to the point that you see in the video. If not, lucky you that you have a machine, and trust me, I would suggest using machine instead of doing it by hand. Once the milk comes up to a boil, turn it off and let it sit for about 15 minutes. This will allow all the oils and all the flavor from the skin, or from the segments of the skin that we added, as well as the cinnamon, to enhance the flavor of the milk. It'll, trust me, after about 15 minutes, taste it and you should notice a big difference. After this has cooled off for about 15 minutes, we're going to pass this through a chinois into another pan. Then we're going to slowly bring this back up to temperature. You do not want to boil it at this point. You're going to start slowly adding the egg yolks. Whisk continuously until it comes to a point of where you can coat the back end of a spoon. It'll start to thicken. Take it off the heat and let it cool, and pour it into the ramekins or the terracotta bowls that you're going to be using. If this goes a little too far, and if it scrambles on you, if it doesn't scramble that much, you can save it by passing this through a chinois again and hopefully saving the mix. But if it does scramble on you, then you have to start over again. But if it doesn't scramble that much, like I said, try passing it through a chinois to try to save it, because this can happen, making a lot of sauces and custards and everything. Accidents happen in the kitchen all the time. So once you have everything poured, I'm going to take a little bit of film, or you can take a little bit of oven paper as well. You're going to lay that on top so it doesn't form a skin, and then I'm going to pop this in the fridge until it cools, and then afterwards you're going to remove the paper or the film. You're going to pour a little more sugar on top, and we're going to take a little handheld blowtorch and we're going to caramelize it. Now there's something that they do traditionally here to give it that caramelized top, and instead of using a blowtorch, what we use in the kitchen, I've done this a lot, is they have an iron specifically just to make crema catalana. And the iron, you have to get extremely clean, and you have to put it on the fire and get it very hot before you then sear the top of the terracotta bowl in like a circular motion. And it's cool to see this in a kitchen. It really is, because this is the old method of doing it, but it's not necessarily practical for everyone to do this. So a blowtorch is fine, it works. You should only put a little bit of sugar on top, or just enough to caramelize it to make a little bit of a crust, but not too much. Otherwise, one, you're going to burn the top when it starts turning black, and two, it'll be a little too thick when you go to break it, and then it's just not fun. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this extremely tasty and famous dessert from Catalonia. If you want any more recipes, or if you haven't seen any of my other videos, be sure to check them out after this video as well. And I want to thank Jim again for doing this collaboration with me. He has a lot of videos, guys, so if you're interested in Spanish cuisine, be sure to have a look at his channel, subscribe to him as well, and as always, I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Thank you for watching, and take care.